What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I thought I would make an updated video just sharing what I feel are the top 10 best guns to use in Modern Warfare 2's 6v6 multiplayer. Of course, keep in mind this is going to be a subjective list, these are my opinions, but I am basing them largely on the objective stats of the gun, combined with my experience of course. So it's okay if you disagree with some of these and maybe would swap a few of them out, and I'd love to hear what your guys' list is down below. But before we get into the list itself, I also wanted to briefly share my opinion on the current state of weapon balance in Modern Warfare 2. And honestly, I feel like weapon balance is the least of this game's concern currently. I think the weapon balance and variety is actually pretty decent. I feel like there's a really good list of guns that I can very comfortably use and consistently perform well with. And that's not to say that I don't think there's maybe a little bit of room for improvement here or there. Maybe some of the weaker, lesser used guns could use a little bit of a buff or something. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the current state of the weapon balance in this game. I'd still perhaps like to see some adjustments to how they handle attachments in the game though. I do feel like there's still way too many attachments that significantly harm our aim down sight speed, and not enough attachments to counteract that. There's not enough on the other side to improve our aim down sight speed. But if we're just looking at the weapons themselves, I'd say I'm actually pretty happy with the current state of the balance. And with that in mind, let's jump into my top 10 list here. Keeping in mind, I put them in a very rough order here. I'm not going to say it's in no particular order. I did want to share some of my favorite toward the end. So we're going to be starting at 10 and working our way down to 1. But it is a very rough ranking, and I could very easily swap a lot of these guns around. And let's start this off with number 10 on my list. This is the TAC-V battle rifle, and I really like using this one in full auto, but this is just a great all-around consistent battle rifle with extremely easy to control recoil. It kicks essentially just straight upwards. It's got a great 3-shot kill range with an excellent time to kill at just 208 milliseconds. And that's without mixing a headshot in. If you mix one single headshot in there, you're now cutting that down to 104 milliseconds, which is just insane. But at the end of the day, it is a battle rifle, so it has a little bit slower handling than you would expect with something like an assault rifle or an SMG. And also, its magazine capacity by default at least is 20 rounds, which may be a bit limiting in some cases. And that's why it's a little bit farther down the list, but I still absolutely love using this gun. As for the next one on my list, this is the Cast-Off 762. This gun just hits super hard. It's a guaranteed 3-shot kill up to 29 meters, and it's got a 3-shot kill potential out to over 45 meters, which is excellent. Its time to kill potential is also really solid at 200 milliseconds, and while it does handle a little bit slower than the other assault rifles, and it's also got a bit more recoil than you would expect with some of the other assault rifles, it's still very manageable, and definitely worth it for that super consistent, amazing time to kill. Next, you may be a little bit surprised to see this so far down on my list here, but this is the M4. And the reasons I like the M4 is it's just a good, consistent all-arounder. It's the jack-of-all-trades assault rifle. You can do anything with it. I would say it's at least decent in every single situation you find yourself in, whether that's point-blank range or at really long ranges. However, that versatility comes with the downside of this gun just not really dominating in any one particular area, at least in public matches with no restrictions. I realize the competitive scene, that's a different story, but I mean, our best time to kill potential to the body is 222 milliseconds, which isn't a horrible time to kill, but it doesn't really stand out in this area, and most of the other guns in the game will technically kill faster than the M4. They just typically come with other downsides that makes them less versatile than the M4. And with that, let's move on to the next gun on my list here, and this is where we're going to see our first SMG. This is the Fennec 45. This gun has an insane rate of fire, a great time to kill potential, and surprisingly very little recoil considering the rate of fire that it has. And while you definitely have to be aware of your magazine capacity, it burns through mags really quickly. You probably want to run that 45 round drum. Just overall, this thing's got a lot of power potential as an aggressive SMG, and I think it definitely deserves a spot on this list because of that. Then let's bring an LMG into the mix here. My favorite LMG in this game right now is the RPK. Largely because you can use a smaller magazine to really significantly improve its handling. Plus, it's already got pretty decent handling for an LMG at least. We've got an insanely consistent 3-shot kill, just like with the Cast-Off 762, but better because it's an LMG with better ranges. It's quite accurate and easy to control as well. But even with all those upsides, it's still obviously going to be moving around the map and aiming down sight slower than most assault rifles and SMG setups out there. So that does hold it back a little bit, but it definitely still deserves a spot on this list for me. And with that, we're now getting into the top 5 on my list, and the next one I'm going to share with you guys is the Chimera. This gun I really enjoy. While it does have roughly the same time to kill as the M4, which, like I mentioned earlier, doesn't really stand out. It's not terrible, but it doesn't stand out. The big difference with the Chimera is you only need to land 1 headshot mixed in with body shots to reduce that down to a 3-shot kill for a 150 millisecond time to kill, which is ridiculously fast. And on top of that, it comes with a free integrated suppressor by default, and while suppressors aren't incredibly powerful in this game, it's still a nice free benefit. And as a result, just overall, I think this is a great all-around sort of a setup that also has a ton of power potential as long as you can land that headshot, which is fairly easy to do with how accurate this gun is. As for the next one, I think this is the current top SMG for competitive players. This is the Vaznev 9K. And this gun really just speaks for itself when you look at the stats. We get an amazing time to kill potential to the body at 154 milliseconds, and in order to get that, you just have to get your shots to the torso, which is generally pretty easy to do, especially within that 10-meter range. It's also quite an accurate gun, it's got great handling, great mobility, and just as an all-arounder, this has incredible potential right up close and personal, and it's still very usable if you stretch the ranges out a little bit for an SMG at least. So I think it's really no surprise that this gun made it on my list. As for the next one though, this used to be the top dog. This used to be my #1 choice, but it did catch a bit of a nerf a little while back. This is the Kastov 74U. Previously, this was a 3-shot kill up close anywhere in the body, even if you're shooting them in the toe, for a time to kill of 184 milliseconds with great handling and mobility stats for an assault rifle. So it was kind of just the obvious choice in the game. Whereas now you do have to land at least 1 shot to the upper torso up close in order to maintain that 3-shot kill potential. But aside from that, it's pretty much the same as before. So it's maybe a little bit less consistent than it was pre-patch. So that's why it's no longer #1 on my list, but I definitely consider it to be at least a top 5 gun in the game still. Then let's get into #2 on my list, and this is the Lockman Sub. I still prefer this over the Vaznev 9K, even though the Vaznev is the top competitive choice in the game. Largely due to the fact that it's more forgiving than the Vaznev. You only have to hit 2 torso shots. The third one can hit anywhere in the limbs, which is great to maintain a 3-shot kill potential. We've also got a slightly faster fire rate than the Vaznev. We've got better mobility stats, better handling stats. However, we do have slightly worse range values than the Vaznev. Overall though, I just find that this handles and feels a little bit better than the Vaznev, and that's why I'd put this at #2. And it is my favorite SMG in the game by a narrow margin at least. And this just leaves us with #1 on the list, and this is the Kastov 545. This gun went from being one of the worst assault rifles in the game to immediately one of the best, if not the best, after it got a slight damage boost with the Season 1 Reloaded update. So with this previously, it was a 4-shot kill anywhere in the body up close, and that didn't give us a very good time to kill potential at all. It wasn't even close to being competitive. However, they added an upper torso multiplier, which now allows us to get a 3-shot kill to the body as long as 2 of them hit the upper torso. And when you combine that with the fact that this is a ridiculously accurate gun, this is one of the most accurate guns in the entire game, it's very easy to do that quite consistently. And therefore, not only do you have an incredibly accurate gun, you have a gun that has an amazing time to kill potential at 184 milliseconds, again, as long as you can land at least 2 of those shots to the upper torso, or maybe just mix 1 headshot in. So we've got near perfect accuracy, incredible time to kill potential, solid enough handling, the best bullet velocity in the assault rifle category, and that just leaves you with an incredibly easy to use gun that's not only really versatile, but also has that power potential up close, unlike something like the M4 for instance, and that's what really shot this up to #1 on my list. Now, to be fair, I think part of the reason I put it at #1 is just because it improved so immensely from where it was, but I really just wanted to hammer home the point that the Kastov 545 is now an incredible gun in Modern Warfare 2, and if you guys haven't really been using it much since that update, I'd highly recommend giving it another go because I think you're probably going to fall in love with it. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for my current list of top 10 weapons in Modern Warfare 2. Like I said at the beginning, this is quite a subjective list, and also I don't take it super seriously. I could very easily swap some of these guns out for other guns that are in the game and still consider it a good list. So this is where I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. What are some of your favorite guns to use currently in Modern Warfare 2's multiplayer? You don't necessarily have to share a full top 10, but even just like a top 3 or top 5 list would be great to see. And also, I am curious to hear your guys' thoughts on the current state of weapon balance in this game. Do you agree with me? Do you think it's actually generally in a pretty decent state and you can use a fair amount of variety and still succeed? Or do you think I'm wrong? Do you think the weapon balance is in a bad state? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.